Okay, so I'm just going to do this on the driver's side because I've already finished on the passenger side. But the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to want to go ahead and take this off. Basically just pry a screwdriver, a flathead screwdriver in the back right here. Just kind of wiggle it back and forth until it pops up. You see it leaves a little gap right here. Put the screwdriver in there. Be careful not to bend the plastic if you want to keep the car looking nice at least. You know, decent. Basically just keep prying up all the way around the edges until you can hear it pop. Alright, so it pops up that way. You pull it back this way. It's going to be a little tight because there are cables in there, so just got to be patient with it. And then you'll go ahead and remove the cables right here. There's a little tab under here, you depress it. Same with this cable here. So a little tab, you just press it, that comes out. There we go. So it effectively gets that out of the way. And next, there's a little thing right here. Okay, so if you can see in here, basically you'll pull that clip back with something small like a tiny screwdriver, or if you can, use your finger, and just kind of pry it back, pry that side back, and then it pulls out this way. There we go. Okay. Alright, next you're going to remove two screws. One of them is in here, behind that little panel. The next one is down here. It's going to be a little tight, but they do come out eventually. It's going to be a little bit hard to show, but there's a little round part in the very middle. Basically, you'll take a screwdriver and you'll push it inward. The very center, you'll push it inward, it'll pop in a little bit. Don't push it any further because you will push it through the door and you may lose the pin. And then basically that'll loosen this part up so you can take it out. Now you can try prying it out before you take the door panel off, but I find it a little bit tricky. So I just prefer to take the door panel off with it. And if it breaks, you can always buy a new one. They're not really expensive. Alright, so it just popped. I was going to take the door panel off. So now what you're going to do from here is the lower part of the door panel. You're basically going to pry up on different parts of it until one side pops up. And then you're going to grab your fingers underneath and just go around the whole bottom, all the way up the sides, on both sides. And that'll loosen it up. You don't pull the top. Only from here down, just pull on it. Start popping off like that. Now I do have modifications on my car already. Alright, so there you can see the door panel is now freely swinging because up top there's a little hook that kind of hooks in the window. That's why you don't want to pull the top. But I do already have modifications on my car. Just that way you guys know it's not going to look the exact same. Alright, so now what you're going to do is you're going to make sure you have a flathead screwdriver ready. And you're going to take the door panel off. I'll show you guys what I'll do. And then this is the only part where you may have a little bit of issues, only because it's a little bit easier this way. You're basically going to take it off and you're going to pry off the clips. And I'll show you what I mean right now. Okay, so I just pulled up on the door and that just comes off. But don't pull it all the way yet. You do have these two cables on the back. Okay, hopefully the camera's flipped around. If not, I'll flip around in the video. But you have your door lock right here. This is the tricky one. And you have your door handle. This one's pretty easy to do. I mean, just unclip right there. This little clip right here to pull it off. You pull the cable off of here. And then you'll take your thumb and you push this off while pulling the cable back. Okay, so that releases that. Now the cable just lifts out. And that one's out of the way. And like I said, you'll want to have a flathead screwdriver ready because it's very hard to see. But I'll give you guys a clearer shot later. There's a, about to drop it. There's a clip right here. You see it it's a mirrored clip over here. So you have this one over here, right above my thumb. And then you have this one over here that's hidden behind this piece of metal. Pry down on that the best you can, and be gentle with it because it can break. Don't worry, this part is replaceable on its own. You don't have to place the whole door handle. But just try not to break it. It makes it easier. Basically, I pried that clip off and then immediately release this. And now what you'll do, it's the same exact thing as the one on the top. This one's a little bit tighter, so you gotta give it a little bit more push. Okay, so pry that one back. Now it lifts out. Okay, so that takes care of removing the door. Okay, so now I'm inside so we can show you guys a little bit easier what to do to put this back on, or prepare to put it back on. So what you'll do is you'll see you have this clip up here, this one down here, and this one here. What you want to do is push them in and push it that way. Push it out. Okay, so I just pried all the clips loose. Oh, not pried them, but I pushed them in and pushed this down a little bit. So now it's just going to push all the way out. Again, be gentle with it. This side's going to come out first. And then you're basically going to slide it out like this. Alright, so now I'm going to show you guys how to basically remove the door speaker and fish all the wire through the little door boots right here. So we get a nice clean install, and you can avoid this issue. You can see I didn't really have luck last time I did this with the door boot, only because I was in more of a rush and I couldn't get the wire to go through where I wanted. But I'll show you how to avoid that and get a nice clean install. Take the old speaker out. Like I said, my car is slightly modified. I do have a hush mat on here, so you're not going to see all this black mat right here. You're going to see just bare metal with the speaker. And you're not going to have to deal with this tar issue that I have. And I forgot to mention, but all you have to do to take these speakers out is you just remove one screw up here and basically lift this part out a little bit and push up. Mine's a little hard, of course, because I do have this sticky mess back here. So yours should be a lot easier to get out. And then the speaker just disconnects with these two prongs right here. Okay, there we go. Got it all taken out. So this is the old speaker. These things right here, these are adapters you can get online. Basically, these are my new speakers right here. Since they are components, the other ones are up here in the dash. But these adapters right here, they are very good. They help tremendously. I highly recommend them. These kits also come with this little plug adapter right here. These are very useful as well. They can fit a little bit tight on these ends, so I recommend if they don't fit good the first time to kind of pry them open a little bit. Not too much, so that way they don't come flying off. So what you're going to do, before you plug it in, just makes life a lot easier. Just plug it into the speaker directly first. Okay, so I got this side to clip in. You can see it's not coming out, but I didn't have to force it in. Okay, this side went in fine. So these are securely in there. Okay, and depending on how the wiring amount works for you, depends on which way you come in from. So what I mean by that is, on my crossovers here, I have the side that connects to the speaker has a lot more wire than the side that connects to the tweeter. So what I'm going to do, since the tweeter is on this side of the car, I'm going to run the wire from this side through the boot down here. And I'm also going to be fixing this wire right here. I'm going to run it along the side. And I'll show you guys how to do that. So the first thing you do is go from in here and feel for the boot. It's going to be right on the other side of it, out of this door. You push it out, just like that. Okay, there we go. Alright, so I got all out, and doing this is usually a big no-no, because these do tend to kind of rip the wires, and it can short it out. So this is why you want to go through with this process instead of running them around the boots. I got kind of lucky. My wires didn't tear on the other side, so I'm kind of hoping I'm lucky on this side as well. So on this side, since you do have a lot of electronics on this side, just go ahead and try and pry it from here. Like I said, these aren't really too hard to pry off. And you don't really want to use a screwdriver or anything because it may puncture it. You can see I've already got it started right there. Okay. So now I got the boot off. And the tricky part here is this is a wiring harness. This isn't just wires running into here, it's an actual harness. And it's very hard to access from the inside. So what you're going to do, you're going to basically pry this all the way out. Don't worry if you hear little bits of cracking here and there, but it's going to be very hard to film because my hand has to be in the way for most of it. But basically just pull it all the way out, just like this. You can see more of the wiring harness coming out. This is just electrical tape around the harness itself. Okay, so far what I've done is I've pulled this out. I basically kind of pried it out from here, and I kept pulling it out while pushing the wires from the inside out this way. When you move the boot, you can feel, when you move the boot and you feel around down in here for two sets of wires, or two rolls of wires basically. You can basically feel them moving together. And basically you're going to pop it out this much where you can see the harness start to come out, and you're going to pull out the rest of the way because there is excess cable for you to pull this out. So that's basically how this works. Okay, so now that I got these harnesses out in the open, there's going to be two clips. They're both in the very bottom of these. So this is the top of the car, this is the bottom, down here. And basically you're going to remove the blue clip down here first, so we can access the clip for the top one. And once you get those off, it's really easy. Just the whole boot drops down and disconnects itself from this side of the car. Okay, so in this case it's actually easier to take the top one out first so you can get access to the bottom one. Only because these ones were tight for me, but after a little bit of swearing and cussing and all that, you can finally get it out. Okay, so I got that one out. Next, you just remove the bottom one the same way. You can see there's a little clip at the bottom, right next to my finger. You're basically going to push that up and pull it out. Okay, so there's both your clips. Here's your wiring harnesses. I did actually pull the boot off a little bit too much, but don't worry, this is electrical tape. If you want to make it look nice again, you could just tape it back up. It really doesn't matter, but these can just push right back in, so you can make it fit nice again. Okay, so now what you're going to do is you can see there's the opening right there. I'm pretty sure Honda put this in because he knew that people like to modify their Hondas. So that's where you're going to run your wire through. And I'll show you an easy way to route wires through boots, especially tiny ones like these. Since wires don't really go through this easily, especially through all these bends and curves and all these ridges. And all you'll need is a zip tie, preferably a big long one, a sturdy one especially, and some electrical tape. How I'm going to set this all up. And this right here, is a prime example. If I can get the camera to focus, you can see the bare metal wires right there. I don't know how it didn't short out, but that's exactly why you don't want to run the boots. The wires are around the boots. You want to run them through the boots to prevent that. I got lucky that it never actually broke on me. Okay, so since I'm going to be running 2 wires today through the boot, I'm going to go ahead and pick the side that goes to the speaker since I'm inside the car. And what you're going to do is you're basically going to... Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to tape the wires like this around the zip tie with the big end on the end right here. Reason being is because that way the tape doesn't slide off the zip tie. That way it has something to hold on to in case if it does slide. And you're gonna run the wires. You're gonna run the wires that way and the zip tie this way. Okay, this doesn't have to be a pretty job. You're only gonna use this once or twice, depending on if you're doing one or both doors. Okay, and this makes it a lot. This makes this a lot easier like this. And to make it even easier, I'd recommend to kind of, if you can, bend these down, so that way they don't catch on the ridges when you push it through. This wire right here you can bend down as well. It doesn't really matter, because this one's so small. Okay, so now what you're going to do, and this makes life a lot easier as well, take some kind of lubrication. I'm just going to use Vaseline since we just had some sitting around. You're going to take a good glob of it. Okay. You're going to go to the end that you're going to put inside the boot. You're just going to load it up all the way down to the bending point right here. So that way it slides to the boot instead of sticking to it. You're also going to put a little bit on the ends of these wires right here. Just kind of help them slide through on the electrical tape. Basically anything that's going to be sliding through the boot, you're just going to run it on there. Okay, so this part's going to be a little bit tricky to show, but basically what I'm going to do is kind of where the boot is right here, where these wiring harnesses are. You really can't see too well, so that's why I'm not going to be able to show you. You're basically going to come from inside right here and run it up under here where the fuse box is, and you're going to try and come out right here. There's a lot of stuff in the way, so that's why it's even just hard to see, so you're just going to kind of feel your way around that. Okay, so I managed to get it through pretty quick. That wasn't too hard. You can see I have the edge of the zip tie here. First run it through here. You can see everything's coming out. Have the crossover right there coming out. You can see I still have all my wires right here. Everything's still accounted for. Okay, now what you're going to do is you're going to route this end through the boot, and you're going to be twisting and pushing it, basically feeding it through as much as you can until you can get a hold of it on the other end, and you're just going to rip it through. Just so you can see where I'm going from right here. I just put it in there first. I haven't gotten it through yet, but you're basically going to push it through there and all the way down until it comes out inside of here through this end of the boot. Okay, so it took a little bit of pushing and shoving. The easiest way I got the wire through, because it does get stuck in these ridges sometimes, is to kind of pull it back a little bit and push the ridge in so it flattens out. And then you can push it past that ridge and etc. It does get stuck quite a bit, but as you can see I do have the end right here, and I have the wires up here. So all I want to do, I'm just going to fish them through. It's going to be a little bit again because these are pretty tight in there, and maybe running through the pack of wires itself. So it may give you a little bit of fight, but just keep at it and you'll get it through. Again, just a heads up, the hardest part is trying to get through this little hole right here, because you're running kind of straight through the wires, and it's a very small opening, but once you get here, you got lots of room to work with. You can see a little bit tough still, but it's going through. Alright, and there you have it, the hardest part of the install made easy with just a zip tie and some electrical tape. So you can see it's all coming through still. Okay, and before you do pull these wires tight, make sure you do plug these back in. And make sure you do plug these back in and reroute these wires back in where they belong. Just so we don't have to deal with them later. Because if you do pull these tight, then you're going to have a hard time getting these to plug back in. Okay, so now that these are clipped back in, let's go ahead and now you can actually tighten the wires down a little bit more and start feeding this back through the way it came out. You can see the wires are right there. Make sure these don't pinch. Make sure these do go straight through, so that way you don't have any problems in the future. Okay, sorry I do have to keep making cuts, but this isn't possible to do with just one hand, because you have to pull on the inside. You have to pull the wire to the back of the car, and then you have to push this in so that way it actually goes in properly and doesn't catch on anything. But then basically you're just gonna push this in right here. Then also make sure these wires down here are nice and pulled through. Make sure they're not caught. And then basically just kind of rework the grommet back on the door panel and the door frame, the car frame itself. Okay, so now we got everything taken care of from the inside of the car to the boot. Now all I have to worry about is the door panel. And you don't have to worry about this wire. I'm going to handle this on my own. Basically, all that wire is basically just lighting down here. It's lighting down here connected to the dome light. I'm not going to get into the specifics of how to do this one, but it is really helpful because when you open the door, it shines the whole ground down below with all these LEDs. And all you're going to do is just going to plug this into the speaker. Since these are Alpines, you can plug them directly into the speaker. The crossover is right here, so you don't have to worry about anything else but that. Basically, just plug these two in and mount the speaker. And also don't forget to plug in this end to the car's end. These do make it a lot easier installing wise. Okay, so I went ahead and took care of this problem right here. And the lights do work. So good. So that's good news. It means the boot didn't damage the wire beforehand. So now all you're going to do is you're going to take the new speaker after everything's plugged in. After you get it demagnetized from the door. And you're basically going to install it the same way the old one came out. Okay, there we go. So I got the speaker mounted. Screw up top. Mounts on the bottom. Now you may have to make some modifications to the door panel itself. You may have to cut off a little bit of the ridging that's on the back side, because it may interfere with these screws and all this right here, because it's used to styrofoam being here, and since there's no styrofoam, it's hard plastic, it's not going to really fit too well, so you do have to cut off a little bit around the edges on the door panel. But let's go ahead and give them a listen real quick and make sure they do work. Make sure install was a success. Okay, looks good. Got sound coming out of there. And we got sound coming out the front. So it looks like our install is a success. Now we're going to put everything back together. These speaker mounts do help a lot with the sound of the bass, since they do seal against the door. And then with the door panel one, they sound a lot better. They have more resonance. It's nowhere near as good as the bass on the stock speakers, but it does sound better, needless to say. And it does hit a lot lower ranges. Just as a comparison without the door panel on, what it sounds like. So you can see the door panel does make a big difference in the sound, but like I said, it's not the exact same as the stock bass, so you do get a little bit more with the stock speakers and bass, but it's really not worth it when you add in a subwoofer, because these speakers do sound a lot better. And just so you guys can see the modification I had to make the speaker fit the door. So this is what you're going to do. Since you have the handle itself out, you're basically going to reconnect everything. You're going to reconnect everything while the door handle's off. So first you're going to feed the door handle through like this. Put the pin back in, snap it back in. The little clip right there. And then you're going to push it in right there on that little clip right there. And then push that one on. So that one's the easy one. The tricky one that got me all the time was this one. If you ever installed the door on these, you'd understand why. But basically what you're going to do, since you have so much room to work with now, is basically just put the pin in here and make sure that that it's pulled all the way like this in the lock position. So that way you can see this is all the way in the lock position. So we have a good accurate measurement on that. Because if you do misalign this, it isn't going to close the lock icon all the way. It's going to leave it a little bit open, and it's just really an eyesore. If you leave it too far open, it may not even work. Okay, so see, the door is supposed to be locked right now, but it shows unlocked, so I'm going to go ahead and push it like that. I'm going to hold it in place. And I'm going to go ahead and close this clip. There we go. See, now it's all got. Now you have the hard part done, and all you have to do is just fish this through the door. Okay, so I'm not sure if you can see it too well, but all I'm doing is I'm turning it sideways, like this, and pulling it through. And then I'm just going to go ahead and slide this part through like this. And basically push it back onto the car. Just like that. And there you go. All you have to do is just put the door panel back on. Simple, quick, and easy. Okay, now you're going to do is push all your door clips back on. Make sure they're all secured. Make sure you hear it pop on each one. Okay, so now going back to the little clip earlier, make sure you do get this one out before you put the door panel back on. Basically, it's gonna, what I did right there is I push the pointy end back out so I can get that round center to push out. Basically, that resets this clip, and you're gonna go back in here and put it in the last hole, not the yellow one, but this one right here. Okay, now that you got it pushed in, you just push this little center piece in. And there you go, that clip's set. Next you're just going to put in the screw that came out of here, right there. And you're also going to go ahead and put in this screw right here, so we can secure the door in place. And then you're going to go ahead and put everything back on, up across here, and then you'll be done. Okay, now that we got those screws in right here, and up top, now I'm just going to go ahead and reconnect the wiring harnesses for the power mirrors and the windows. And then you can push the back down. Okay, there you go. And last but not least, don't forget the cover. Okay, there you go. And just like that, the installation is done. As you can see, no more wires running around the boot. They're all running through the boot now. We have new door speakers now, fully functional lights at the bottom, and fully functional tweeters up front.